What's going on, people? Welcome to Conversation with Haych, the how-to series, a series where we speak to some amazing people doing some amazing things and give you, the viewers, advice and encouragement on particular topics. Today, we have an amazing guest, a founder and trustee of the award-winning charity First Class Foundation, co-founder of the Legacy Impact UK with his wife, an equality and diversity consultant, the family man who loves sunshine and food. Shout out to Dennis Caribbean Street Food, the one and the only Sir Nathan Dennis. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. I'll be honest, challenging time at the moment. There's a lot on the plate. But I'm balancing.
Yeah. I hear you. So today, myself and Nathan are going to be discussing how to engage and protect our youth. Very, as you said, challenging times, not just for you, but for everyone. We're coming out of this pandemic and things just seem to be getting worse and worse. Cost of living, things just happening. We've had stuff with child Q, all these different types of things happening. So I really want to get into this conversation. I think you are expertly placed to have this conversation and to give kind of advice to people who may not really know what to do or how to engage our youth where we feel like they're kind of where we're lacking essentially as a community and as individuals. But before we get into that, give us a brief intro into who Nathan Dennis is.
Every time I get answer this question, I think, where do I start? But for me, I am first like a husband and a father. That's important to me. That's like my identity that I'm proud of. I love being a husband. I love being a father to my 4 daughters. Born again Christian, very proud of that as well, because for me, like, my relationship with Christ has made such a difference in my life. I'm also an aggressive, like, entrepreneur. I say it with my chest, I'm trying to get the bag. And the reason why I say that is that because money answers things. It helps open doors. You can have ideas till the cows come home, but if you don't have resources to activate those ideas, it's just ideas. I'm trying to say. So
true.
For me, I'm very creative with it, and I kind of like the fun of having different things. So, like, even in the introduction, invested and opened up a food takeaway recently. It's a different challenge, a different beast, but it's about having different streams, different opportunities. So that's me really. But my heart, to be honest, is like, for years, and still has been like youth and community engagement work, to be honest, but even in that, like, getting burnt out, getting disappointed, running out of resources, realize that I need to be about business. I need to think about strategy. I need to think about how to bring in resources, because passion only takes you so far. And then you need resources and management to help sustain things.
That's true. You touched on it a little bit there, but I want to know what inspired you to get into community work, or essentially like youth and community work, and why have you done it for so long?
All right, so I grew up in an area in Birmingham called Newtown, B19, B19, and spent a lot of my childhood with my cousins who live in B21 Handsworth. So when I was growing up, like, I grew up in a typical kind of, I thought it was typical, but my experience was this, like, there were certain things that was just like standard. So first thing, it's only till I went to secondary school, I didn't realize I was kind of living in what they call low income area. I lived in Newtown. We played in the park every day. I had so much friends. I could go to so many people's houses when I was growing up and get food and just like be treated like I was like the kids, like it was like my house. Then just like being in and out of families' homes, and like I'm talking about the days when, like, you don't even knock the door, you just put your hand down and you walk in. And then, like, my dad as well was someone that was doing a lot of stuff in the community. So I used to go to a thing called Sunday Festival in Handsworth Park. Every Sunday there used to be like sound systems and music in the park. Then, like, once a year we'd have a carnival. And then, like, back like more Newtown sides, we used to do a thing called like going Ronnie's Roller Ring.
Yeah.
So for me, like my memories of like growing up was community, the village, like, you know, hand-me-downs, like, you know, you go to your grandma's house, you're definitely leaving with like cake,
Yeah.
some leftover soup.
Yeah.
Like Saturdays were fun memories, Saturday soup, You Bet, Syllablats, Blind Date, Gladiators. I've got like these very strong and fun memories of community, what Caribbean community meant to me from a British perspective. When I got older now, as a teenager, there's all of a sudden there's this beef thing and there's problems and people couldn't go to certain areas. And a very long story short, when I was a teenager, I started to make poor decisions and choices and got caught up in the road life. And then fast forward, became a born again Christian, radically changed my life. But then I was just like the scales had fallen from my eyes, and I was just seeing like some of the problems that were in our community in terms of actually many of the households were like very low income. Many of the households didn't have fathers in there. Actually, there was a lot of problems in the hood, in the community. And I just felt that I wanted to create spaces for young people to talk about things that they thought was problems. So I first came on the scene around community work with an event, and it was called the Struggle Debate Show, where I says, your story, our story, let's look at solutions to solve the problems within our community. And I remember doing that event, and it was like about 231 people that showed up at this South Birmingham College in Deep Breath. And we had a debate, and it was mixed up with like artists performing and spoken word and stuff like that. So it was like edutainment. And I just started to realize that people wanted spaces to talk and reason. And then I started to realize that as I was showing people my story and sharing people some of my truths, that young people in schools and different places I was going were being captivated and inspired by my story of like transformation and change. So it was just something that like I kind of fell into, but there's a root in it in terms of like when you go back into my early childhood experiences and the sense of village and the sense of we help each other, that kind of just continued when I got older.
The key thing that I think one of the key things that spoke out when you were talking is community, that sense of community, that sense of being around people. Yeah, your cousin was from B21, you was from B19, but from an early age, there was a sense of community. And then you grow up and you realize, okay, hold on, this community is kind of like not waning, but it's fractured. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not as solid as I thought it was when I was growing up. And then you see the impact that your life then has, or the impacts that things that happen in your life. Then you see how the youth below you or the people who are growing up behind you are growing up, and you see how what you saw as a fractured community, they're now living in. So then when they grow up and they continue to move forward, it's like it's even more fractured when they get to
it's like a cascading, and it's like I always say that I feel like we've lost so much of our values. Some people who are into like Pan-Africanism and like serious Black history, like I would say the woke community, they would say actually we never had it because it was stolen from us from the interruption of our history through slavery. And through learning and reading, I actually think that's true. But in terms of like from a simple Black British 80s babies experience, two of the key things that were very strong institutions in my childhood, like as an 80s baby growing up into the 90s, was the Black church and the Rastafarian movement in terms of like roots and culture, music and expression through music, and the thing around, you know, like my dad's a Rasta and his community, and that community was all about like how you greet each other. Yes, king. Yes, lion. Wagwan, king, you know? And it's like endearing terms, very energetic, a unity. There was an identity, there was a fashion, there was a hairstyle, you know what I'm trying to say? There was an energy. And then with that as well, even though there was like, for some people, a rebellion against the church in one sense, they still was kind of dealing with the Bible. And then you had like who I would call my nan's generation, who was like very staunch, very focused, everything's about Jesus and the church. But I think that we benefited from that because there was, morals, values, there was principles, there was kind of like the matriarch, there was a strong kind of like grandmother of the family that would always insist in bringing the family together and reasoning together and talking about God, talking about what's right and wrong. And nowadays, I don't know what your experience is, but it breaks my heart now, if I'll be honest. I feel that we just do not have time. And that was actually going to be my first answer to, in the preparation for this interview with you, like, how can we more effectively engage with young people? The fundamental thing that I was going to say is I just feel that we do not have time for each other. So from a family level, we don't have time. How do we then have time for young people who are not even our family? And I think that is a fundamental issue. What's happened is that we drive past young people, we walk past them, we judge them from afar, but who actually stops and spends time with them to say, like, how are you today? And just stopping long enough to hear what the response is. And even if you don't get a positive response in the first, trying a second, third, fourth, fifth time. So yeah, you're going into some of the deep cause of me now.
I think one of the things, when you said time, I think that's so important. But I think some of us don't even care. If we're being honest, I think some of us don't care as much as we think we do. I think we say, okay, yeah, I'm looking out for the youth and I want to make sure.
1000%. Like, let's keep it 100. Who do you think, from your perspective, is the main listeners to your show right now? Who will listen to this?
Probably age range and
demographics.
Age range and demographic, we're probably looking at probably 25 to 40, 45.
Yeah.
And then it's probably a mixture of men and women, but probably more women than men.
Okay. I would say that 1000% we do not care enough anymore. 1000. And I will go to any community center, I'll go to any church, and I'll say, all right, then if you care, show me the resource, show me the investment, show me the space that you've created for young people, and then we'll have a conversation. The harsh reality is that we don't care anymore. Young people hasn't been a priority for a long time. We are very reactional as a community. We do not respond to things. For me, the difference between reacting and responding is when a tragedy happens, and let's go to the extreme of like youth violence and someone stabbed or shot. It's only then you start seeing what you call social media outrage, and people are like, oh my God, we need to do something. I can't believe this person's happened. This is a disgrace. And then a few people pipe up, write their long post on social media. But then within a day, some people, depending on how severe this incident was, for a few more days, we'll keep talking. But when it comes to organizing ourselves and sitting down at the table and planning and strategizing, it's dead. It's not there. When you ask the question, like, where is the investment? Like, show me your budget. So if you have a budget, right, and I ask you, it could be £100, £1,000, £100,000, £1 million. I would say to you, what percentage of that budget goes directly to helping young people or doing youth development or creating youth provision? A lot of the time, it's very, very minimal. The things that we're investing in now, it's not youth programs. It's not what we used to do. And the harsh reality is that from a Birmingham safe, this is like a Birmingham audience. Here's the facts. 2011, over 18 youth services got closed within the West Midlands in Birmingham. Like, since the Conservative government have come in and Labour government lost the power, from a political perspective, the finances has significantly been reduced. We used to have things from a city council perspective called Every Child Matters. We used to have proper campaigns. We used to do things like the Sure Start centres, where earlier years young people would have provision and care. There used to be like free summer schools and play schemes. It doesn't exist anymore. And then when you think from a faith perspective, because I believe some of your audience will be from a faith perspective, I'm not saying no, because I don't know every church's background.
Yeah.
I don't know every church's provision, and I know there's a lot of churches working hard. But I asked the question is to check your balance sheet and say, what percentage of youth investment have you made in your spaces that we occupy? How much of our spaces have been turned into youth-friendly spaces in terms of the colors, the design, the space? Does it fit? Is it youth-friendly? Have you put investment into like technology, media suite? You're a media man. You're gonna say like it's shocking how many places just don't have. They're just not up to this time. Like, do we have podcasting facilities? Do we have media facilities? Do we have music recording facilities? Do we have art and design facilities? Like I'm talking about real investment, because a lot of young people just don't have space to go. And then when they do come to the spaces, they're not inspiring spaces. So I just think like all of these things has an impact, I'm trying to say, and then just not being, like I use a term, there's a term that I use in my work called co-production, yeah? I'm trying to make it really easy for people that are listening. So this is all about how to improve the engagement with young people. Do not just come up with ideas without young people being at the table of the ideas being created.
Yep.
It is vitally and critically important that when you're thinking about your youth engagement initiative or your youth plan or your youth strategy, you cannot be old people together thinking about how you're going to engage the youth based on what used to work in 1980s, 1990s, or early 2000s. We are in 2022. Like when we thought, okay, let's try and be more Instagram and more active on the gram, everything moved to TikTok and Snapchat. Like things are moving kind of thing. It's like we have to understand how what we call Generation Z are engaging and consuming content. So we first, going back to this principle of co-production, it's coming up with ideas that have young people at the heart of the idea. So invite them into the strategy planning meeting, invite them into the discussions about budget and how we should allocate budget, get their ideas on marketing and how we do things. That's very important as a strategy perspective.
Yep.
Then we have to first, going back to the original principle about, or question about, do people care? Before we do anything, we got to ask ourselves and be integral to this answer. Do we really care? So when I'm training my team, I train my team based on a values principle. It's called the HD strategy, hope dealer strategy. How can we deal hope in the community? It's based on 6 core values: faith, love, trust, time, passion, and integrity. I'll quickly break it down. Faith, I train the team and I say to them, look, if we don't have faith and belief that these young people can change and their lives can be better, there's no use with doing it. So we have to step out when we engage with them in a room or out on the street. We have to have faith and belief and a hope in us that even though we can't see it, we have a hope and a belief that, you know what, we can change these young people's life. Next value, love. We have to, I've been breaking down that love in English dictionary is too simple. We have to break it down in the Greek and understand that there's different ways to describe love. So I've been encouraging the team and saying to them, we have to have agape love, unconditional love. So it doesn't mean that the young people are going to love us in return. They're not going to say thank you, but we have to know that we have to show them and demonstrate love every day. So if you step out with us, Haych, one of the things we've been doing is like, we've done a big order, like 500 drinks the other day we ordered. Yesterday, some of the team members went to the cake shop, bought loads of cake. We're trying to, like, as well as give advice and guidance, we're trying to feed young people, like practically show, we love it. The young people like shot, like, why are you giving me drink? Why are you doing this? Because we're saying we love you. They're like, huh? We're saying, listen, don't worry. Behind the scenes, from our kind of our Christian kind of class and teaching, we're not trying to like be evangelical, but we're trying to make it flow through our values. Is we're saying, look, just like Christ sacrificed his life for us, we want to sacrifice and have unconditional love for these young people. And the team are like, okay. Then when we talk about trust, we're saying, I say to them, look, do not try and engage any young person if they don't trust you. Like, why should they trust you? Who are you? If you haven't took out the next value, time, to spend time with them,
Yeah.
be consistent with that time.
Mm-hmm.
How is it that you think you're going to develop trust? And then integrity is important. Integrity is not saying that you're going to be perfect, you know. Integrity is this: keep it real with young people.
Yep.
Too many people are trying to engage young people, but hide their debt or hide their thing, like to say, I was all perfect. No, sure. Yep. When you talk to young people, be integral. Like, you know, I struggle with this and that, and I kind of understand, and be honest and transparent with them. In the streets, they say real recognize real. Yep. See, when you're lying and you're not being real to young people, they see and they just think in their mind that I'll say it to you. This generation will say it to you. If they don't say it to you, they think, oh, you're fake. But you see, when you can be transparent and honest and open about the mistakes that you've made in your own life and the things that you haven't got right, I'm telling you, there's an authenticity, and they connect, like real recognize real, and they're able to connect. So let's go through the last value before I forget is passion. Start trying to engage young people with no energy. Like, your energy has to be on 10. You have to, like, with passion, you have to with spirit, with, you know, you got to really like pour out. So 6 values: faith, love, time, trust, passion, and integrity. It's about having a values-based approach to your engagement. You can't just be like, trying to put out a flyer and then just expecting young people to come.
Yeah.
That's foolishness. So those are my few thoughts.
Bro, you've answered practically every question I had here. Every question you've answered. And I think it's important. One of the things that you said, time is a big thing for me with young people. It's a big thing. And it's not time where you feel like you're working a 9 to 5 and you have to be there. You have to show them, listen, I want to be here. I want to be a part of what's going on. I want to talk to you. I want to have engagement with you. And I feel like it's so important that people don't even realize that you taking time out of your day in smaller spaces, even church spaces, or just seeing a young person that you may not have seen for a little while, taking the time and say, yo, how are you actually doing? Like, what's going on? And having that 2-minute conversation changes their perspective on not just you, but the people that they look at and think, oh, this person actually took the time. So I'm going to have a little bit more grace or love for another person just because this one person took the time to ask me how I was actually doing. But then I might go home and it might be a passer at home or something might be going on at home, but this person cares because this person took 2 minutes. Sometimes it's the smallest things that make the biggest change.
I truly believe as well in the African proverb that says it takes the village to grow the child. Everybody's abdicated their responsibility from my perspective, Like, it burns my heart sometimes, you know, I'll be honest, like, it burns my heart when people only start talking like when like a tragedies happen and it's like, it's something that's high profile. But the harsh reality is that things are happening every single day. Every single day we're dealing with things. Like, can I just bring some practical stuff that we like experienced in, say, the last 2 to 3 months? Every day we're constantly stopping fights outside shops. Young people just speaking to shopkeepers with aggression. Like, attempted stabbings we're stopping when we're out there in the community. I can't tell you how much times I've tapped my expenses card for the charity to help young people just catch a bus home because they don't have enough money to catch the bus. Like, this is real stuff. Like, how many young people at bus stops? I'm like, yo, I got no money. And I'm like, rah, we got to tap. Sometimes young people just like, I remember one time, right, when I done like, I just went to a shop, and I just put a massive budget on a chip shop. And I says, that this is my account, it's like a tab. And, you know, we went out and I says, to all the young people, I says, go into that chip shop and say, the guys in the purple jackets, they said I can come and get chips. And the young people coming out, some of them, like, you could see quite emotional, like, why would you do this? And I'm just saying to them, don't worry, man. We're just letting you know that, like, we love you, but God loves you, but like, this is being empowered through God. And they're like, huh, God? And I'm just like, yeah, we're not there to evangelize, but we're there just to like be a positive presence.
Yeah.
Even the colors, like purple meaning royalty. Like, we're being intentional about the stuff that we do. We're trying to be We're trying to be as relevant as possible, but not losing the core, because we understand that. You know what messed me up yesterday? No, 2 days ago. I gave the team an assignment when we stepped out this week, and I said to them, I want you to ask young people 2 questions. What does the word faith mean to you? And when was the last time your faith got knocked? The team reported back in the debrief that they were speaking to boys in Newtown, in the shopping centre, and the boys were saying, I don't know what the word faith means. What does that mean? What do you mean, faith? What do you mean? And he's like, are you being serious? And it says, faith. No. I says, what comes to mind when you hear faith? Probably faith, like a girl's name, Faith.
Why?
Asked the rest of the man them, there was like, yeah, probably a girl's name. And I was like, my chest was just hurting me, man, cause I was like, what? And I said, you know what? That's the reality. Like the word, just the simple word faith is not in some young people's vocabulary. It's not even, because no one in their family probably even talking about faith.
Yeah.
Schools definitely don't talk about faith. So this is like, it was like an alien word. And it was like, because in my head, innit, and probably you as well, faith is a simple kind of word.
Yeah.
But for these young people who having generationally not engaging with any type of faith, it was like a very, very hard question to answer. And then yesterday's task that I gave the team was I wanted to ask the team, the young people, 2 questions. What is love? And is love a feeling or a decision? And all the young people with their chest, that's easy. It's a feeling. And I says, okay, then let's say you love your friend here that's standing next to you. Does every day you feel like you love her and she does the right things by you? She says, nah. Could they say sir to us, innit? No, sir. And I says, I want to teach you about agape love, unconditional love. That sometimes even in your friend circle or your family circle, people don't do you right, but you still made a decision to love them despite of. And I was like, oh my God, that's deep. You know what? I want to change my answer. I think love is a bit of a feeling and decision at the same time. And this is how we're trying to be practical out there.
Yeah. I hear that. I 100% hear that. We could talk about this for hours. I'll be honest. But we know time is short. So my last question to you is, if someone only caught the last section of this video, what would be your lasting advice to them in terms of how to engage our youth?
I would first say, look in the mirror. And before you point the finger at anybody else, I say, what are we doing? Just look in the mirror and say, what are you doing? How much time are you putting into this? People are so quick to say this and say that, but I think there needs to be more accountability. Like, what are you doing? Fam? That's my question. What are you doing? Can I end with a story that I think is very sad?
Yeah.
It's a faith perspective story, but I think it highlights some of the problems we have. This is from a faith perspective. A few names I'm going to give. I'm just going to give the first names, and if people know them, they know them. Seth, Errol, Romana, and even myself, and there's other names. Check everybody's work right now. Every single person that I've named, for whatever reason, had to leave the faith institutions that they was a part of to start their own thing when it pertains to engaging young people. For whatever reason, the leadership, the generation before, when people shared their vision and their ideas, didn't invest in these ideas how they should have. Some of these things became massive events, massive movements. But when I checked it now, when I think about Seth and some of the summits and events that he's put on, like phenomenal gatherings. But in the early years, I don't know how it ended, but I know finances was always a struggle, and it's always like pleading with like the community, multiple faith communities saying we need help. Then I think of someone like Errol doing amazing stuff in the school system, but has left his original place to set up his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Romana engaging so many young people through dance and creative arts. I know has a similar story, went first to the place that she was going to ask for help. You know, say, like, I really don't think with my chest, and this might be an uncomfortable thing, but I don't think that any of us or others as well should have really had to set up our own things. The vision within the body should have been big enough to encompass and incubate us so that actually I'm not starting from zero. Because you know how much time, fam, I've wasted just trying to make resources to try and get things popping. And I believe that everyone else would have the same story. Like, if there was something where we could be truly incubated. So like for your thing, yeah. So I was gonna say to you, because I didn't realize it was two separate things. I was gonna say, yo, I will sort out the studio fee and I'll sort out the cameraman if that's why we're using the Zoom. But now I realize it's two different things. We need to improve the economic strength and the collaborative working and the leadership passing on the baton better, because too much people, and you probably have the similar story if I was to interview you, like we've got these visions that's inside of us, and we could have been so much more further if we had proper resources. Like, what could you do if I gave you $100 grand and you think about the media equipment that you could do, the marketing you could put into the things? You're starting from this. And the problem is that with all those stories and names I've said, sometimes when they was younger and they came with their ideas, these ideas wasn't received as like not really needs to happen, because the investment focus was probably just on the pulpit Sunday preaching. And this is why I think we are in the situation where we are, because, you know, I believe St. Joel talks about, I give young men dreams and visions and stuff like that. I believe that people have been having visions, people have been having dreams, but when they then share their dreams, everyone's just like looking like, oh, that's your thing to do. Like Nathan can be seen as like, oh, he's not proper talking about Jesus though, you know. So I'm just going to leave him. I support him and wave my hand from there. But imagine if people come around each other's visions and really just sold into them, how more further would we be? We should be standing on the shoulders of our leadership and being much more higher up and have better investment infrastructure. All this starting our one-man bands and trying and stressing out ourselves, trying to sustain ourselves and fuel the visions and fuel the missions. And it's hard work, man. That's why I started off in the conversation, hey. So he's saying, how are you? It's like, it's tiring at times, man. I'll keep it real. I have to have such a discipline of prayer behind the scenes. And we'll unpack this more in the other conversation that we're going to have. But it's like, I have to do a lot of secret place living to just maintain my mental health, my spiritual health, my emotional health, because it's hard work, man. And I just know that we could be even much more stronger, much more powerful if the wider body, the kingdom, connected on a different level and took back the territory that the enemy has stolen. There's so much young people's lives that have been snatched. Like, it's just ridiculous, man. And we're warring, you know, we're not warring against flesh and blood. We're not stepping out there in the community, bro. I'm not warring against physical entities. It's spiritual wickedness in high places. This is real work, man, that we're putting in, and it's hard work. And I hate the fact that, I'm not saying, because don't get it twisted, I have serious leaders that are, you know, we're cheering you on. But I need people to really understand that this is life and death that we're dealing with out there, and we're warring with entities that don't like that we're here. But I want people to know that when they see me or see anybody else doing, we are members of the kingdom.
Sir Nathan Dennis.
Oh!
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate your time. And I hope people take a lot from this, not just a little. I hope people take a lot from this and they truly look in the mirror and say, what am I doing? what am I doing about this? How am I engaging? How am I trying to protect our youth? Guys, it's been conversation with Haych, the how-to series, with the amazing, the superb Nathan Dennis. And we'll have much more content coming for you very, very soon.
Can I say one last thing before you press stop?
Go.
If you're feeling conflicted and you're thinking like, what can I do? It doesn't have to be First Class Foundation, but even the names that I've mentioned, but research and pray and stand beside other people, stand behind this platform and say, you know what? Haych is having some deep conversations. How can I sow a seed into what he's doing to help it take it to the next level? So it doesn't mean that you have to always be front line, but it means that you could stand next to someone at Romana, at Errol, at MSF and say, you know, I like what you're trying to do with symphony schools or whatever it is. Let me stand aside to you. All these, listen, Haych, you imagine if every single person that you've interviewed just sowed a seed into your vision and sowed back into what you're doing. How much resources would you do and how much more could you have done? Stop thinking, oh, because I've come on Haych to speak, it's all about me. Let's have more strategic conversations outside of this to think, all right, then, how can I help you build your thing to take it to the next level? And all of us need to have that kingdom mindset.
How to series, conversation with Haych. More content coming for you very, very soon.